Although Lucinda is retired today from an influential career in law enforcement, she's been an active and respected community member, continually working to make her community stronger. Dr. Carolyn James documented her story in Nez Perce Women in Transition, 1877 to 1990. I assume that's not all about you, because 1877 to 1990 is it's in the book, but in transition. Lucinda worked for Indian education in the Lewiston schools as the first preschool teacher for Native students. She worked as a police officer and earned the rank of sergeant while working for the Wenatchee, Washington Police Department. She then returned to school and finished her bachelor's degree in criminal justice before going back into law enforcement in the city of Orofino on the Nez Perce Reservation. Lucinda worked as a therapist for the Mounted Scholars Program and continued her work in law enforcement. She helped the tribe transition for the first time from Bureau of Indian Affairs police jurisdiction to a tribal police force. Lucinda is also a member of the board of directors of Nimiipuu Protecting the Environment and of the Friends of the Clearwater. So welcome, Lucinda. Tatsmewi, which means good morning. Tats Kalawit means good evening, so Tats Kalawit. And Lautiwa is friend, so Tats Kalawit Lautiwa. Okay. What I'm going to start with is we're going to have a little cultural competency survey, and you need to share these with somebody because I don't have that many copies, so if you want to pair up and we'll go over these questions. It's a competency that I made up when I was working on my master's degree, so here's one. And so we'll see, test your knowledge of how much you know about the Nez Perce. My situation was, in order to get this passed and get this approved, I had to go through the elders panel, the cultural board. I had to go through Nez Perce Tribal Executive Board before I got this. I got one more here. Before I got this approved, so we'll go over the questions and see how we come out with this. So the first one, does someone want to state the first question? Yes.
It's a creation story.
Oh, creation story? Okay, the Heart of the Monster is a Nez Perce creation story. That is correct. And number two, you could read the question, and then if you have the answer to number two, does someone want to do number two? And Brett can't take this because he already had the cultural.
I know what you're doing.
Okay, number two is, a tuchus is commonly utilized as A, walking stick, B, root digging tool, C, mostly by the Nez Perce and other Columbia Plateau tribes, D, all of the above. The answer is all of the above. We use it, we call a cane a walking stick, so it is called a tuchus. The root digging tool, I didn't bring it tonight, I should have, is also considered a tuchus, and it's used by a lot of the Columbia Plateau tribes. Okay, does anybody want to do number three? Yes. Yes, that is correct. We have the Clearwater battlefield, the Big Hole battlefield, and the Bear Paw battlefield. That is correct. Anybody want to do number four? Okay, one of the small bands of the Nez Perce is known as A, Gitikatad, B, Escapo, C, Lancers, D, Rock Creek. The answer is Escapo. The Escapo people came from Orofino area, and it's right by Osaka.
That's called the Escapo people. If they're from Orofino area now, they identify as Escapo. So, okay, does anybody want to go over number 5? Where is the young Chief Joseph buried? A. Kamei, B. Cottonwood, C. Ferdinand, D. Nespelem. Yeah, the answer is D. Nespelem. He's buried at Nespelem, Washington. That's where Joseph ended up after the War of 1877. He spent 10 years in Oklahoma Territory, and after he returned, they told him he could not return to his homeland ever again, and so they placed him on the Colville Reservation in Washington. And the reason they did this was because they didn't want him to have influence on the Nez Perce that were studying to be Christian. He didn't want him to influence. They didn't want him to influence those people, and they also put him with a tribe that really didn't like the Nez Perce. So the government did this a lot. They would place tribes together that didn't get along, and hoping they would maybe kill themselves off, or one thing or another. So that's where Joseph ended up, was Nespelem. He died in 1907, and they say he died of a heart attack, a heart condition, because he was heart sick because he could never go home to Wallowa area. Okay, does anyone want to do number 6? Yes, it is the Appaloosa horse, and many of the tribal people still have Appaloosa horses today. Okay. Okay, does someone want to do number 7? Okay, the Nez Perce tribal flag is mostly colored A, blue and white, B, red and green, C, red, gold, and black, D, white and teal. The answer is C, red, gold, and black. So if you see our flag, you'll see the colors are red, gold, and black. Okay? Okay, does anyone want to do number 8? Yes. Number 8. Yes, the Nez Perce Tribe Executive. Yes. They are a branch of government that oversees the business for the tribe. The Nez Perce Executive Committee. Yes, correct. Number 9. Pardon? D, number 9, D. Yes, it's B, the Matalaima. Matalaima. They have a celebration, a gathering, and they call that the Matalaima Days. And that is identified with the people that are considered Matalaima, and they come from the Kamei area. So, close though. Okay, number 10. What did you say, B or D? Oh, D as in dog? Oh, Powapum. The Nez Perce name for the North Lewiston area is Seminicum. Sometimes they spell it with a C, but as it was written in a dictionary for the Nez Perce, it was written with the S, so Seminicum. That's the area the Nez Perce called Seminicum. Okay. Number 11. All of the above? Yes, that is correct. Agronomous fish, cultural subsistence, treaty rights fishing, and all of the above is correct. Number 12.
D.
B? Oh, D. D. Yes, the museum is located at Spalding, Idaho. That is correct. Okay, number 13. One of the Nez Perce annual tribal gatherings is A, Duck Valley, B, Payamsha, C, Chief Joseph Warriors Memorial, D, Smokeshan Days. The answer is C, Chief Joseph Warriors Memorial, and it's usually held in June. And then when they have that memorial, they go down to the battlefield at Whitebird on Saturday morning, and they hold a pipe ceremony down in there to commemorate the Whitebird battle. So the answer is C. Smukushin is a Spokane tribal doing. Payamsha is the Warm Springs, and Duck Valley, of course, is Duck Valley, the Paiute. Okay, number 14. A practice of the Nez Perce, a part of the Columbia Plateau tribe sweat lodge tradition. A, the men sweat the same time as the women. B, men and women sweat separately. C, all elders sweat together. D, all children sweat together. Yeah, they sweat separately. Some tribes sweat together, but the Nez Perce sweat separately. Correct. Okay, number 15. The Nez Perce children are raised traditionally. The Nez Perce children are traditionally raised: A, matrilineal; B, patrilineal; C, grandmother; D, all of the above. Yes, all of the above. They're raised by, and today you'll probably find that to be true again. They raise all the children. Everybody has a hand in raising them. So, and we're lucky because a lot of people across the country in the United States, they live in different parts of the country. They might live in New York and their family is from Boston or someplace else, and it's impossible to help raise them if you're not in the same town. So that's a good thing for the tribal people to raise the children. Everybody put a hand in on raising the children. 16, a well-known author of the Nez Perce history that once resided in Joseph, Oregon. A, N. Scott Momaday; B, Vine Deloria Jr.; C, Alan Marshall; D, Alvin Josephi. D? Yes, it's Alan Josephi. They have a museum called the Alan Josephi Museum. And some of these dolls that I have, I make and design these Nez Perce dolls, and I have sold some of my dolls to the Josephi Museum. And one of the reasons I sell my dolls to them is because a percentage of the sale goes to the Josephi Museum, and I would like to see that continued. So that's one way of helping it to carry on, is selling the dolls to them so they can use some of that money to support the museum. So, okay. 17, the heart of the monster is located near A, Orofino; B, Asaka; C, Alpawa; D, Kamei. Yes, Kamei, correct. 18, the ant in the yellow jacket is located near A, Arrow Junction; B, Alpawa Grade; C, Spalding; D, Winchester.
Spalding.
Yes, it's at Spalding, right across from the museum, right by the highway there. Okay, very good. Very good, thank you. Okay. As I was taught by my elders, is one day the Nez Perce may be no more. And as Ishigara was studied in the museum his last part of his life in Northern California, that may be the way the Nez Perce are one day, because our numbers are getting lower. And my mother was a full-blood. That makes me half. And so if our people don't marry into the tribe, then our blood quantum is going to get too low and we won't have any more Nez Perce people. But a majority of my family were full-blood. My aunts and uncles and my grandparents, they were all full-blood. So that's one good thing, I guess you could say. To get an understanding of me, I wore my regalia, and this is a part of the water and what it means to our people. These shells that I have on this dress are shells that come from the coast, the Pacific Northwest coast. And we did a lot of trading with different parts of the country, and that is one of the things that we got from them, was the shells. So this dress was my grandmother's dress, and she passed away in 1967. She was born in 1900, and the dress was made in the 1800s, so it is very old. My sisters, when we were cleaning one of my mother's homes, she had a home on a Colville reservation and in Everett, and they said, well, we really don't want that dress, so, you go ahead and have it. Well, they looked at it and they thought, well, we really don't want that dress, Okay, I fixed it all up and put new fringe and new things on it and filled in the empty spots and things. And then I wore it to a dance, and my sister said, where did you get that dress? And I said, remember, you girls gave it to me. You didn't want it. They didn't realize that, I could fix it up and make it look like it's a current design dress. One thing is that the Nez Perce people, women, have a design of a wing on their dress. You'll see if they're a traditional Nez Perce, their design of the shawls go in a wing form. Because traditionally, the Nez Perce women are accepted into heaven because they are the mothers, the grandmothers, the people that take care of the tribal people. So automatically, they are gifted to wear wings of an angel because they were well respected in the past, and they meant a lot to the people. The men on council would call upon elder women to find out answers to some of the solutions to the problems they were having. The women took in orphans from wars with the neighboring tribes that they fought with, and the battle of the Nez Perce War of 1877. They also took in the orphans from that war. So the Nez Perce women, you'll see they'll do their shawls in the form of a wing because of that respect. And it was done on the buckskin dresses originally. And this is from the trade cloth. But what I had to do is, being that come from the 1800s, I had to salvage the lower half, and this is made from a newer traditional cloth, wool cloth. It gets kind of warm too. But of course I wear leggings. But anyway, that was part of the thing about the Nez Perce, and the colors mean a lot to the Nez Perce. The mountains, bloodshed, blue for the sky, everything, every color meant something to the tribal people in some way or another. Many of the things like these otter furs, of course, came from an animal that resides near the water, so that is special to us. These bones are elk bone, and of course the elk survives by water. Percentage of his body is water. And these are cowrie shells. I've got different shells on my dress. This one and my hat show that our family is a family that digs for roots and is a food gathering family. So my sisters and I will spend time in the Nez Perce gathering season, which has been thrown off by the global warming, but we do have a gathering time, and that's when families will go out and gather these various things. This is some of our roots that we have. We have mountain tea. Afterward you can check these things out. And this is our cows, and we use the cows for medicine. It's good for colds, it's good for sore throats. You boil it, you steep it in water, and it is very helpful. They use it in a sweat lodge, and you can bite a piece off if your throat feels a little dry, and that'll help your throat. So some people take this and they boil it and they make a broth, a tea out of it, and then they drink that tea, and that keeps them healthy. So this grows in the high country. It grows where the mud is in the mountain tops. So if you see mud and you see a stream trickling down, you'll probably find some of the cows that we use today for different things in the sweat lodge and for colds and so forth. And of course we have mountain tea, and of course you have to have water to brew this tea. And there are different places to get this tea. There's a place over by St. Mary's that we collect the tea, or near Clarkia. And that is our mountain tea that we use. And that's also good for colds, sore throats, chest congestion, things like that. It's some of our natural remedies that we do have. And of course, our salmon, this is some of our dried pounded salmon. And when you dry it and you pound it into smaller pieces, you can take that on a hiking trip in a little pouch, and it'll help you with your hunger issues. Especially when it's pounded small, you don't know how much that fills you up more. Especially being dry and, small pieces, it really fills you up on a hiking trip. And it's healthy for you, of course. So, one of the things I was going to say is that this was a pamphlet that was made by my Uncle Gordon, who developed the Nez Perce language class in different areas. This is the name that we had for the Moscow area. Taxhinma. Taxhinma. The prefix tax refers to newly born fawn with white spots on the body. It is the general vicinity of Moscow, but it is closer to the Palouse mountain range. The reason is the does preferred a short distance from the forest to escape predators, as long run by very young deer lessen survival. It is a true stream. The South Fork of the Palouse River flows through the S section of the town. However, elders called it a different name, and the creek was many muskrats, with many muskrats. One of the areas that Moscow is known for is the root digging place. So many Nez Perce used to come up here and dig roots. And also the tobacco kinnikinick grows quite well in this area. So we have kinnikinick, camas, and the bitter roots. And they all came from this area. One of the reasons that the Nez Perce roamed and were nomadic is to save our water and our water resources. So we would winter in certain areas and summer in certain areas. We lived in Wallowa in warmer seasons, and then would go to Lapwai and other areas to live, which are protected by hills and mountains and different things too. So it was a big help to conserve our water by moving from place to place rather than stay there and make the water not be able to cleanse itself again. And there are many streams, mountaintops that have running water that were important to the tribal elders. And of course, before my great-grandmother passed away, all she drank was stream water. And she would go certain places to get that. And she wouldn't drink out of the tap. She just drank the spring water. And I thought, that's something. Now we drink out of a bottle. We drink some different waters out of the bottle. But there's a place over Lolo Pass where we used to get water, fresh water for my great-grandmother. And there's a place going over, when you go down Rattlesnake Canyon, where there's a stream where you can get water. And it goes through, sifts through sand and dirt and things like that. So it gets, pretty clean once it gets so far. And there are other places that they gathered this type of water for my great-grandmother to drink. So. Let's see. Oh, there. I'm trying to figure out, okay, this is a new machine for me. I had an iPad, and then my daughter buys this for me? Okay. She said, oh, Mom, you need this. Okay. Okay. Oops. Oh, here we go. It's getting there. Oh, and then our water, too, is also very important for our horses that we did have. Long ago, my great-grandmother told me we did have horses before the Spanish people. She didn't say it that way, but she said we had horses. But she said they were a small horse, almost like a Shetland horse. They were very small in size. And I think if you study some of the history, you'll see that there was a small horse here. And they used it to help with travois and things. So it was used in a different manner other than riding. Another thing is my great-grandmother, had told me that the buffalo originated from the water. And as you know, there are water buffalo in this world. And they do live in the water. So I'm thinking, maybe great-grandma wasn't off. She said buffalo used to come out of the area they call Buffalo Lake up on the Colville Reservation. She said buffalo used to come out of there, and then when the white settlers started moving in, the buffalo stopped. Because, of course, with the creation stories of the Nez Perce, the Creator brought certain animals, the fish, the deer, the elk, different things for the Nez Perce to survive on. And they said that they would give themselves for us so that we would be able to survive. So that is a part of our creation stories. And all of our salmon, steelhead, Pacific lamprey, of course, they are important to us, and they come from the water areas. And we're getting to where the lamprey are getting pretty low in number. And many people believe that the Nez Perce or other tribes survived on meat. This was not so. We survived on roots and berries and other things. Meat was only when it was plentiful, only when it was in season, only when the cows, you couldn't hunt them when they were expecting with young ones. So that was a time you didn't hunt them. And the Nez Perce used to travel to buffalo country, and they still do today. I traveled to buffalo country myself and was able to get one buffalo, and I still have my buffalo robe. But when I went, it was in the late 90s, and we went to Gardner, Montana, and it was 14 below, and the Fish and Game stopped us, and they said, wait, because there were probably about 150 Nez Perce. And they said, you can't shoot those buffalo, you guys might hit each other in crossfire. Of course, all of us laughed, but we had to go along with what the Fish and Game, made the rules. So they said, we'll go and kill them. Okay, you guys are going to shoot each other in crossfire. So they went and shot all the buffalo for us, and then we had to run and go in and find the buffalo that we wanted to get. So I picked a pretty good size buffalo. And being 14 below, it was good to have the warm blood from in the buffalo, because I put my hands inside there when it was 14 below and kept them warm. At first I had rings on. I thought, oh, I'm too modern. I'm going to need to put these rings away. So I stuck the rings in my truck and went out there and then finished cutting up my buffalo and stuck my hands inside to keep warm at 14 below. It was so cold. It was freezing. But buffalo, of course, they survive on water too in Yellowstone. Water was very important for the Nez Perce in that we used it for the sweat lodge, and that was our way of cleansing ourselves. If you go to different countries, Lakota country, they don't use water to rinse off after they sweat. And us, we think, no, you gotta wash off, So the Nez Perce made the use of water for the sweat lodge. So it was very important for that reason. That was our cleansing, and the sweat lodge itself is considered the womb of Mother Earth. So we respected that. And then we prayed to Grandfather, which is the creator of all, when we were in there. And in the sweat lodge, we never mentioned I or me or anything like that in our prayers that we said. They were all about family or someone else. We prayed for others who were sick, others who were having difficulty, that type of thing. We never prayed for I, me, type of thing. So we were taught that, at a young age, don't go in there to pray for yourself. That's not what the Creator wants. He wants you to care for others, not just this person. But the sweat lodge was very important for us, and still is today. A lot of people have sweat lodges in their homes. Last I counted, there was about 30 sweat lodges on the Nez Perce reservation, and some of those are privately owned. And some places we have public community sweat lodges, and they were built with some form of grant, and that's where people that don't have one in their privacy of their home, they go and they sweat. And so it's still very important to the Nez Perce people. I see on here that I forgot to mention some more about my regalia. Sorry about that. The moccasins that I have on are over 100 years old, and I only wear them for special occasions. And they were made by a great-great-grandmother. And so they're very, very old. They're very old. So they've been resold a couple times. They've had new, what we call high tops put on them that come up to here under that. And they're over 100 years old. So my regalia will be handed down to my daughter and my granddaughter once I am gone. So they already are told, you are to take care of this. These are our family heirlooms. You will, look after these things when I am gone and when my sisters are gone and you are here. This is your responsibility to watch over my grandmother's dress and other regalia that I have made. So, and let's see, this is my knife scabbard. A lot of women don't have them, but of course when I was in law enforcement, I was a hunter and fisherman and the whole works. It just made sense, if you do one thing, you got to do. But I carried over here because it's a cross draw for me. In my eyes, I would cross draw if I had a knife in here. But I'm friendly terms. I didn't bring my knife. One of the friendliness person, I didn't bring my knife. And this is a decoration that the Nez Perce would wear on the side. A lot of them are made out of leather, different things. They have different designs on them. And it's more like decoration now. So, but it's usually something put on leather. And this, let's see. This is what we call a hip bag. And they were made by many women. This was made by one of my ancestors in our family. And she passed away, let's see, probably in the 70s. And she was in her 90s. So, my family honors this now. So, and it was given to me by my cousin. And our family honors and knows where everything comes from. Each shawl I have, I let my children know this is who I got this from. You remember this person. Because a lot of these things are given to us by the Nez Perce giveaways when someone passes on, or they have different tribal ceremonies. They honor you with a shawl. And so my granddaughter and my daughter know who each shawl was given to me from and who we honored with that shawl. they gave it to us, so, that family honored us in this way. So, and the other thing is the fan. You can only pack eagle feathers if you're a real old tribal elder or you were in law enforcement or the military. I do have an eagle fan that I do have, but I only take it out for certain things. The women used the hawk feathers, owl feathers, different things like that. It's more of the men that use they have the honor. They've been veterans and fought in wars and those type of things, so they use the eagle feathers. The way the women wear them is by putting them in their hair to represent their marital status. If you see a woman with 2 eagle feathers, she's taken. Leave her alone. If you see one, she's wearing 1. Hey guys, she's available. So anyway, the other thing is they can wear these little eagle plumes for root digging hats like this. To earn my status as a root digger, growing up on the Colville Reservation, I had to go out and dig with some tribal elders of what is called the longhouse. I think I was 14 years old, and I went out with about 5 women and my mother, and she assisted me on what I needed to do to gather these roots that grew close to the water area. Usually in fields and things, the bitter roots, they would get quite a bit of water from the snow and different things, and then they would bloom in like April and May, and so that's when we'd go dig those. So at 14, I had to earn the right to wear this basket hat and to pack this basket. This was from my great-grandmother, and it was handed down to me, and that's kind of how you identify who you are, by what you have. Because in the Nez Perce way, you aren't rich by how much money you have. You're rich by how much you've been given or how much you've accumulated by your ancestors, your grandmothers, your great-grandmothers, things that are heirlooms that are handed down. And that's how we identify who is considered rich. So yeah, ladies. Doesn't want to go now. Okay, yeah, there was a site along the Snake River where the Nez Perce had a longhouse, and they identified that site as being over 10,000 years old. And that's where they would practice using water and prayer. They had different ceremonies that were when it was salmon season. We didn't worship the salmon. We respected the salmon, so we would have a salmon feast. We didn't worship the roots, but we respected the roots that fed us, so we would have a root feast. So it has been proven, of course, through history that their longhouses are over 10,000 years old on the Nez Perce Reservation. And they used water in their ceremonies. When they would sing the Nez Perce songs, when they would talk, in one longhouse they talked about the respected people that passed away during the War of 1877, and they named those names of those people. And then they would go ahead and drink water. Everybody drank water before they started the meal. So they went around the room and made sure everybody had a glass of water so that they would drink the water to purify themselves and keep themselves alive and going by that water. So it is used in that purpose. And of course, in baptismal and different things, they use water. There's different cultures that use water as a part of their rituals. But the Nez Perce used it in this way it was important to them to have the water, and they knew one day we may not have very much water. So they respected that water like they respected the salmon and the other things that were provided to us. So if there's any questions that you have, feel free to ask me now. I make these dolls and design them. I work with Julian on the Nimiipuu Protecting the Environment. So these are handouts for you. You can pick one up if you choose. And I also work with Friends of the Clearwater. That's how I know Brett. And we work with other organizations in the area. I had some pictures I could pass around too. My Uncle Gordon, who taught the Nez Perce language, this is a picture of him in Salilo. That's how important it was to us. And on the flip side, there's a picture of my great-grandmother, my grandmother, and my great-great-grandmother. They were out camping and getting berries years ago. I don't know when those little brownie cameras came out, but that's what that was taken with. But that's family. And pass these around too. This is a picture of some Nez Perce fishing on the Salilo, which was very important to us. And this is a picture of the old Salilo in the 50s. And this is a current picture of the Salilo. So you can pass those around too. And one thing I forgot to mention was the Nez Perce, it's our belief that we must have an Indian name in order to meet the Creator when we pass on. That Indian name is the one that He calls us by when He's going to call us out and say it is our time to go. My name is Ipnaumokhat, and I was named for a relative called Belinda Wheeler, who is my mother's auntie. And she came from the Kamiai area. So I respect that name, Ipnaumokhat, very much. And yes, the Nez Perce that's what we were taught by my mother, of course, who's a full-blood, and all our grandmothers, everything were full-blood. They gave us a name when we were younger, too. Sometimes they have a young name for you when you're growing up. I don't want to say mine. But they always called me Peeps, because that was bones, because I always was very light. There was like 12 in my family, and I barely made it to the table after basketball and everything, so after turnout. So I was always skinny. So my younger name was Peeps, which is bones in Nez Perce. And then when I got older, I got the name of Ipnaumokhat, which I treasure. So don't tell anybody. But if there's any questions now, I'd be glad to see if I can answer any questions you might have. I am a type of person who, I do not care what type of question or what type, whatever you need to know, you can ask me. I don't take anything as an insult. I take it as a learning experience. And that's the only way you learn. I traveled to Japan and spoke at a couple of their colleges, Masashino Institute and Toyo Women's College. And I learned a lot by asking questions. And I was there with one of the senseis, one of the teachers that was involved in the Hiroshima bombing. And it was kind of a healing for her to have me there, because she never really talked about it to anyone else. And so I was fortunate to hear her story about the Hiroshima bombing and what happened when she was 3 years old. So, but the world brings women together, especially. You know how women, they can talk with anybody. People of color, people from another country, the women just have a way to communicate. And we're the ones that sit on the, panels for United Nations, different things, because we can communicate. So, any questions for me? Yes?
Do I understand correctly that you chose to be a root digger? That's something you chose to do
Yes,
when
it
you were
is.
younger.
It is.
So are there other options? Like, what other options might there be if I were growing up and wanted to do something?
Well, that was a good one, because I was pretty much a tomboy growing up, and so of course I went into law enforcement, and I used to be an instructor in self-defense. I used to teach defense tactics for law enforcement, and I also taught it for domestic violence groups. But giving that type of a thing, that's what my family recognized me as, is kind of a, you have a man side of you and you have a woman side. And sometimes that man side will stick out a little bit more. And that was kind of with me, because it was easier for me to talk to a guy and, make friends with a guy, because we were buds and stuff, pals and whatnot, than it was to talk to another girl. And I don't know why, but, my family basically identified me as having that part of the male person that showed out within me. And they knew that one day I would probably go into law enforcement because of that, my tomboyish attitude, climbing trees and, fishing and hunting and doing those types of things. So they knew that I would probably take that route in later in life. So, yes.
So I am curious, talking about law enforcement in the Wenatchee area and other places, I assume, but gosh, how hard, as a woman and then as a Native person, there's a lot of prejudice on both ends.
Yes and no. When I worked Wenatchee, I ended up making a reserve training sergeant because I was able to communicate with people quite well. And they would send me to the bikers section of town to answer the call because I could talk to the bikers. I didn't fear them. They were human beings, And they send me to the Latino section, and they send me to the Indian section of town. And of course, they'd have me, if they had an Indian in an alley or something, of course they would call upon me because they knew, hey, I could relate to him somehow. Like this one young man, he was in his early 20s, and he was in the alley close to the main street, and he had had too much to drink. And the barkeep told him he'd have to leave because he had too much to drink. So he goes out the back door and he lays in the alley. Well, of course, people are going to get concerned. Hey, is this person injured? Are they hurt? You got to find out, assess the situation. And he was fine. And so I just kind of looked him over, no scratches, no nothing, kind of tapped him with my nightstick. And I said, hey, do you have a name? What's your name, sir? And he saw that I was an Indian woman, and he kind of focused up on me, and he felt ashamed. And he said, Tommy. I said, hey, Tommy, do you have a last name? And he looked up at me, focusing on me as seeing a woman, stand over him with a badge, And he said, Tommy, no good. So he felt bad, about what he was and his alcoholism problem and that type of thing. And I said, hey, partner, you got a place to go? Let's, you need to find some place to go and sleep it off there, bud, So, but yeah, they sent me, one time I got a call, and it was by the Chelan County Courthouse. And of course the county could have handled that, but they sent me there because it was the Ghost Rider bikers. And I was the only one to respond to that call. So I go up there and talk to the bikers, and I said, hey, you guys, what's going on here? What are you guys doing over here? And they said, oh, we've got one of our buddies that's in jail. We're just here to bail him out. We don't want any trouble. We're going to bail out our buddy. We've got the secretary and the banker, things like that. And then they're going to bail him out, and we're just going to skip town, go back to Quincy or someplace. So I said, oh, okay, guys, that's good, that's good. And all the officers were back there thinking, God, she's talking to the bikers by herself, no backup or anything, they were just human beings too, I said my prayers every night before I would go on patrol. And so I had this veil of protection from the Creator, knowing that He was going to watch out for me in whatever situation I was in. But I did have one instant one night where this good friend of mine, I thought, well, we worked in law enforcement, for 7 years, and I thought he was a pretty good pal. We got this call of a drunken driver, and he was driving, and I was riding with him, and he goes, oh gosh, it's probably another dang drunken Injun, and I looked at him, and he said, oh, sorry, And we were just quiet the rest of that night. But still, you know, when it came down to it, he says, well, you want to go to my house for dinner. So then everything was good again. We forgave each other and moved on, you know. That's all you can do. But, yeah, it was hard. It was hard. Orofino, there were loggers and Indians, and the out-of-town fishermen. And, of course, I get those type of calls, but I was able to handle them. Usually if you can talk with people pretty good, you can do the job, and that's just it. One time I had like 4 kids that stole the car from Clarkston, and they made it to Orofino, and they were sitting in a park, and the car broke down, and they weren't sure what to do. And I checked the plates, and I said, what about this vehicle? And they said, oh, that's a stolen out of Clarkston, 4 kids. And I go, oh my God. So I go over there and I start talking to them. I say, hey, what's the matter with your car? And they go, oh, I don't know. We're just checking it out and to see what's wrong with it. I go, well, whose car is this? And kind of did a coyote way around, you know. And next thing you know, I had 4 of them cuffed, and the chief pulls in to back me up, and he laughs. I had 4 of them cuffed. I said, Chief, I said, could you take these 2 to the station for me? I only have room for these 2. And he laughed, you know. It was funny, but things like that happen. But if you're able to talk to people, communicate, you know, you can do the job. You can do the job. Yeah. Any more questions? Yes.
Well, you mentioned that your gathering seasons have changed.
Yes.
What sort of changes have you seen?
Well, for one thing, when the fish come back from the ocean, the salmon, there's not that much water that is left there for them to swim in. It's very shallow and very hard for them. And, you know, it's really a bad feeling when you see the fish in the water struggling because there's not enough water. People think, oh, you know, we have wine industry, we have grapes, we have people that mine for gold and pull water out and for orchards and a lot of different things. But they don't think of the results of what's going to happen down the road. And when we build too many homes in too many areas, of course the water is going to deplete. And with some of the places like they're having problems with now in California, Arizona, different areas, they've already depleted their water source because they built too many homes, too many structures, too many people needing water, and they don't think ahead, well, look at the future, how is this going to affect this city, this place that's built, Tuba City or wherever it is. They don't think ahead. And with the hydropower, I used to live in San Diego when I was going to San Diego State University, and I noticed about every 3 to 6 months, the power would go out in Oceanside near the Marine base or someplace else, Escondido someplace. Another 6 months, the power would go out in that area. Oh, we lost power, and they'd take, you know, a lot of hours before the power would come back on. And I knew it was because they were short on power, because everybody had their air conditioners running in their home because it was over 75. So, you know, I saw that. I saw, you know, they're not going to have much, you know, water resources left if they keep this up. And that's just, you know, a sad way of the world that it's going right now, as our water resources are dwindling. So, yes, Brett?
More people, or how can people learn more about Nimiipuu Protecting the Environment? How can they get involved with this grassroots?
We have, we are on Facebook for one thing, and we do have a website for another. And just recently, Julian Matthews, who heads this, Nimiipuu Protecting the Environment, he is building a better Facebook site and website for us. He's getting those things done. And we like people to help us out in any way they can. We have had volunteers at different times, at different workshops that we've had. there's a lot of things that you could do. You don't have to do the same thing all the time. There's something you could do. We set up tables like this, and somebody could man the table, so people could take turns. Sometimes I never see a workshop. I help set it up, and I don't get to see it because I'm manning the table. But if we had a few volunteers that would, I'll watch it a couple hours or a half hour or whatever, so you can go listen to this one lecture or whatever. Things like that. And just pulling together with ideas on maybe megalodes issues or our salmon issues or the type of issues we're fighting today, our forest, our trees, the Forest Service and how they operate sometimes. If they could pull together with ideas and resources for us, that would help us out quite a bit. And to get to know us, it's like, I guess it's kind of like me when I went to Japan. At first I thought, oh my God, am I going to blow things talking, at the different colleges? No. If you're open-minded, and you can talk to individuals, you don't have that problem. But we could use help in different ways. Some of the fundraisers we do, some of the events we have, getting the word out about us is another thing. So.
Event coming up, right?
Yes, we do have an event coming up on the 28th on Saturday from 8 o'clock till 3 o'clock at the Clearwater River Casino. We are having a updated workshop there on some of our issues that we have in dealing with the coal and the coal falling into our waterways and some of our fish issues that we have, some of our dam breaching issues we have. We're going to have different speakers go there, and at this particular meeting we're going to honor some people for participating in the flotilla and for participating in the Standing Rock event that went on over in Standing Rock. People that actually took a canoe and went all the way over there in the canoe to Standing Rock. Traveled over there and froze and got sick, got pneumonia, different things. So yeah, we're going to honor those people for standing up and standing up for something we believe in, is having water for our communities. So.
Is all that information on those handouts?
No, but if you get this and look on the website, you can pass those around. Those are. And of course, Julian, he likes me to have our posters here, so this is one of the posters he designed. Has our wolves and our bear and our fish on this one. And we have those different issues. And
Are there any other questions? Well, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
And I will remind you that the Smithsonian Waterways exhibit tomorrow is the last day. Is it open on Saturday?
It is open on Saturday from 10 to 2 p.m.
Okay, and that will be it. It will be taken down on Monday. So get here and enjoy it while you can. And thank you for coming.